The June 11th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting is called to order. Roll call, please.
Chair McNiff, Vice Chair Banfield,
Here.
Commissioner Bright,
Here.
Commissioner Fitzgerald,
Here.
Commissioner Hodo,
Here.
Commissioner Severson, Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Zook, and ex officio Underhill.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 14th. Is that correct, Marcia? May 14th, 2025, which you have a hard copy in front of you.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Any additional comments? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion carries. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented, and the agenda includes a public comment on agenda items. There are no public hearings tonight. There's no old business, and then we have three items, reports and recommendations under new business. We finished with a public comment on non-agenda items, board reports, and then adjournment. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Stewart. Moved and seconded. Any additions or subtractions or corrections? Or hearing none, those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. At this time, public comment is allowed on agenda items. Persons addressing the Planning Commission are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the chair. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 5 minutes. And those of you who are going to be speaking, there's a clock right over here to watch from the podium. And all of the speaking will come from the podium. Public hearing items should be addressed during public hearings. We don't have one of those tonight. Non-agenda items should be addressed during the public comment non-agenda items portion of the meeting, which sounds very clear if you wrote that. But what that means is anything on the agenda, specifically the three items on the agenda tonight, those are the ones that you speak to right now. And then afterwards, we'll have a second public comment period to speak on any topic other than the agenda items. Ma'am?
That if have been invited to present their topics tonight, that they will be asked for a presentation during those items and not during this time.
If you're the petitioners, yes, you will speak during your time. So this is for the general public primarily. However, you want to proceed with the letter? Because I already talked to them. Not proceed with it, but do you want me to talk about the letter right now? That's next on the. That's next. Yeah. Okay. So clearly, if you're here to speak on any of those three new business items, then save your comments for those, except for communication received by staff regarding Consumers Credit Union, and we'd like to have one of you read that letter, please, and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Megan Larder, and that's Grace Larder. We are the owners of Sprinkle Sweet Shack, formerly Ice Cream Dream, 1112 West Michigan Ave. We purchased the business in December of 2023. At the time, we were aware that the former Pizza Hut adjacent to us had been sold, but we did not know any specifics regarding the new owners. There had been a long-standing agreement between the owners of Pizza Hut and Ice Cream Dream to share the west parking lot and allow our customers to exit through it. We were hopeful that this would continue. We did not have any contact with Consumers Credit Union or the construction crew until October of 2024, when we were contacted by Mike Murray via phone and email. He informed us that we would need to sign a portion of our right-of-way over to consumers for their driveway. This was surprising to us as construction was already underway on the building and no one had reached out to us, even though the plan had been drawn up and approved nearly 10 months prior. We met with members of Consumers, MDOT, and the construction team several times over the next month, trying to reach an agreement. When it finally came out that they would only be leaving us 13 feet of street frontage if they proceeded with the plan, we declined to let them use our property for their drive. During these meetings, they did threaten to take the connecting drive between the properties away if things did not go according to their plan. The last time we spoke with anyone from their team was late November of 2024. We were never informed that the plans had been changed. We believed that and regularly told our customers that the lots would connect when they asked, right up until the time the concrete curb had been poured around the entire lot. While we respect that Consumers Credit Union owns the property and the decision of how they use it is ultimately theirs, we fear for the safety of our customers. On a warm summer day, we can see 75 to 100 cars pass through our tiny lot. As each parking lot spot fills, we watch the customers struggle, trapped and unable to maneuver their vehicles in the tight confines. They back up the length of the lot and onto Michigan Ave. This is becoming a daily occurrence and is terrifying to watch. The width of the drive makes it very difficult to accommodate cars entering and exiting at the same time. If a customer is trying to pull in at the same time someone is exiting, the entering customer is forced to come to a complete stop on Michigan Ave and wait until the customer has left before they can enter the drive. Both of these cause very dangerous situations to all drivers involved. We have spent a lot of time looking at our lot and trying to figure out a solution or possible change that would allow for better traffic flow for our customers. The size of our lot is simply too small to allow for any changes that would alleviate our congestion. We appreciate you hearing us out and hope you will ultimately decide that connecting drive is necessary to keep our customers safe.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is public hearings and subsequent board action. There is none.
Make sure there's no other public comments.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Marcia. You're right. You are correct. Are there any other public comments? Please.
All right, I thought Barry Wayne Adams, 622 West Green Street. Thought you might try to slip this by. But first thing, speaking about the sprinkles issue, and right now in the city, we have enough problems with traffic obstructions on Michigan Avenue, and they don't need to be exacerbated by bullheadedness or efforts at corporate bullying. It's for the sake of public safety to make sure that you don't have these unnecessary traffic situations that are artificially created. So in this instance, it probably would be a good idea because businesses like Sprinkles are really the businesses that give the city character, and enhance the quality of life in the city. And they get a lot of patronization, and they deserve a chance to survive. So it would probably be a good idea to, in your decision-making process, be deferent to the side of the underdog in this situation. And, the people in town would appreciate it. And, a simple connecting thing would be too rational to be expected from government decision-making. Now, the supposed master plan draft. Well, life is what happens when you're busy making plans. And I'm not sure if you're aware yet, but there were events that went on up in Lansing today that will momentously impact the long-term progression of the mega site or major campus or Blue Oval, whatever name you want to give it. And it was a joint hearing by the Committee on Homeland Security, together with the Committee on Oversight on Corporate Subsidy, a joint committee hearing. And they were, the topic of the hearing was the use of MADEC in the transferring of all these monies to all these different local economic groups statewide. And the MADEC spokespeople came, and they made their statements. Again, trying to deny any sort of nefarious connection with cattle and the CCP. But after they were done, it was interesting that they immediately packed up and left before the end of the hearing. And then former Ambassador Sella came up and spoke for a good 20 minutes, talking in strong, informed detail as to why there is a serious issue with CCP infiltration into the state. And he just used the recent incidents of what happened intercepting these Chinese students coming in with agro-terror substances. Agro-terrorism, it's a new word on our list. So the committees are seriously looking at the real connections between the cattle and Ford and the long-term viability of the mega site. And from the tone of questioning of the different legislators, it sounds like they will be militating against the battery plant coming into formation. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Did anyone else? Marcia, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Dan Larder, co-owner with my daughters of Sprinkles 1112 Michigan Ave. Thank you for letting me speak and voice my concerns about the construction of our neighbor's lot. And we fear that for the customer safety of the configuration that they have built their lot, not as planned, but as they set forward with making their own decision to not put the pass through to the two lots through. Again, we have witnessed many a frightening situation happen when people back out onto Michigan Ave, or they hop the curb to the neighbor's drive, and we can't stop them. They do their own thing. So we just ask that you possibly keep to the original approved plan for construction and have concern for the safety of our customers. Thank you.
You, Dan? Anyone else? This will be the only time to speak in regards to that, besides what the petitioner has to say. So seeing none, we'll move on now to public hearings and subsequent board action. There is none, no business. And under reports and recommendations, we have 3 items under new business. And the first one is the 2025 City of Marshall Master Plan Draft to City Council. Marcia.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. I know that at our last meeting, I gave a brief synopsis of what the changes in the master plan kind of contrasted between what our last master plan was and what the current master plan contains. really turned out to be a lot of similarities. And so tonight, we have Julie from Progressive available to us. She's going to give a little presentation, again, kind of describing that process and going through. She's got a little bit of a presentation, but I think that the goal here is to provide some opportunities for questions. I know that you've had this to review for a little bit of time now, and so I think that it would be best to give her the opportunity to answer any questions that we may have.
We already have received the master plan, and this is the time for questions or anything regarding those before we eventually move this on to council for their, they do a public hearing also.
Yeah, yes. So there would be an opportunity tonight, if you choose. We can make a motion to send this to city council and open the 63-day window for public comment. We would also set the public hearing date, and I believe that would be for our September meeting at this point. So,
A separate motion for that.
yeah. Yep.
And just now we have 6 or.
So
that include-
yes,
is that
so
okay?
yes, so we do have 6 members tonight,
So we can,
and so we can take action on
after I
this.
spent all that time explaining why we couldn't.
Thank you all for coming.
Please,
Julie, I guess.
Julie.
Wait, can you guys hear me? Because I don't want to put my back to you guys and I don't want to put my back to you guys. So just speaking from here, okay?
I would encourage, well, I guess, do you need to be plugged in?
Or I could
Oh,
speak this
yeah.
way. How about this?
Oh,
Go.
Great. So
thanks, Ian.
thank you again, everyone. My name is Julie Sherhart. For those who don't know me, I'm a planner with Progressive Companies. We are a engineering, architecture, and planning firm based in Grand Rapids. And for about the past 14 months, we've had the pleasure of working with the city of Marshall on a new master plan. And sort of the stage that we're at right now is we have prepared a draft plan, and as Marcia said, the next step could be to send it to city council where they would officially open the public comment period. But I think I want to give just a bit of an overview for those who may be unfamiliar in the room. You know, what is a master plan? Why are we updating it now? A little bit about the details of what we've done over the past 14 months or so. And then I'm available for any questions that folks have on, both sides of the room. So what is a master plan? So a master plan is something that is required under Michigan state law, so the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. And essentially a master plan is a policy document that guides land use and development in a community. So per the state law, the master plan should consider the character of the community and its suitability for a variety of land uses. It can have elements regarding transportation, housing, recreation, utilities. And the overall goal is that the master plan should promote the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare of the community. So the master plan can be thought of as one piece in a puzzle to creating, the desired future state of a community. So in terms of what we've done, there's been, a number of sort of studies and analyses that we've undertaken. So everything from, looking at census data to understand, Marshall last updated their master plan in 2015. So kind of in the last 10 years, what's changed, right? How have conditions changed in the community, and how should that inform, the plans for the future? We've also done a significant amount of public input. So kicking off about a year ago, we had several pop-ups where we got feedback from folks on a variety of topics. Parks and Recreation, kind of having mapping activities where people could indicate, this is an area of the city that I really treasure and I want to keep the same or continue to invest in. Here's an area where might be an opportunity for change. And so we had a number of activities where we tried to meet people where they are. So we were at the farmers market, we were at Fridays at the Fountain, and then we had a open house in the fall in October. And so we were at both the library and then we moved over to Dark Horse. So we kind of tried to, access as many sort of segments of the population, let's say, as we could. And we also had a online survey, and we got a really significant response. I think almost 700 people filled out this survey, and it was sort of assessing like the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges of Marshall as it relates to land use, housing, economic development, parks and recreation, that sort of thing. So we've pulled together the feedback that we received and just sort of our analysis of what's on the ground, and we've come up with this draft plan. And it involves both, a vision statement for what the community hopes it might be like in the next 20 years, as well as goals and some strategies to get there. So state law requires that master plans are updated every 5 years. So that was kind of the impetus for updating it this time around. I think, probably back in 2020, they did a check and said, okay, we don't really need to amend the plan. Not enough has changed. We're still kind of trying to hit those goals. But last year, decided, yeah, enough has changed, especially, with the advent of the major campus, the Blue Oval site, some of the really pressing concerns around housing, just the affordability issue and the lack of housing opportunities. And kind of these elements really pushed the city to think, yeah, now is a good time for us to update the master plan. And it's kind of important to know or to consider, change occurs with or without planning, but if you plan, you can hopefully guide that change. And so it's sort of trying to be proactive instead of reactive. So in terms of where we are in the process, so as I mentioned, we kicked it off last year. We have drafted a plan, and now is the moment where the Planning Commission could submit it to City Council to open the public comment period. So it's sort of set by state law that there's 63 days that the community, neighboring jurisdictions, the county, really anyone that has a stake in the future of Marshall has a significant amount of time with this plan and is able to provide comment. So I think it's important to know that this is still very much a draft and it can change. We've felt very proud of the amount of engagement that we've done. I think we had something like 1,600 points of engagement. So whether that's a survey response or an attendee at an event. So we felt pretty, happy that we got the amount of engagement that we did. But of course, we're not going to reach everyone. So this period allows for additional public comment. So that's kind of where we're at now. And after this 63-day period, we will consider the changes that we want to make or not. And I guess I should say we've had this really amazing steering committee that's helped sort of be a guide throughout this process. And it's been comprised of a few people on this planning commission here, city council members, as well as other just residents and business leaders in the community that all care about the future of the city. So we would work with them to incorporate any needed changes, and then you would have the plan return to planning commission and have the official public hearing. And that's where the planning commission could vote to recommend approval to city council. And then city council could again hold another public hearing, so additional feedback, and then adopt the plan. So that is sort of where we're at, and I'm happy to get into more detail about any of the contents of the plan. I know that you guys have had it for at least a month, and several people at the dais are intimately familiar, but we want to make sure that people feel that their questions are answered. So I'm happy to do so to the best of my ability.
Any comments directly to Julie? So that's a question. About the detached, about the eighth. It's a small house. So he's one guy, like one guy, so she started her house. Yeah, it's very nice, oh, it has to be correct, and you cook out the person. Okay. Ethan wasn't, well. So I was very curious as to, like, for instance, what is it based on the amount of square footage not covered on a lot that allows that to happen? Or is it allowed to happen across the board no matter what your service coverage?
Yeah, I think it would follow our current ordinance. But if you don't have those setback, their construction there. You have an oversized lot, there are some oversized lot,
I know that. That was my question. So is there a minimum size? Maybe as an example, where we live, it's a somewhat of it might be 1,800 square foot footprint, but it's not a pretty small lot because it's part of the old town.
You just follow per rules. If you don't have a room for setback, then you shouldn't do the other. If you do
Both sides and structures,
correct. Yeah, that'd be my decision.
What about coverage? I'm totally sure that we have that. Well, I know we have the ordinance, you can't cover more than a certain percentage, so.
So that would also, yeah, that would dictate as well. If you have a really small lot, you couldn't.
So we're talking about accessory dwelling units. So for people who don't know what that is, it's also, you might have heard the term granny flat or in-law suite. It's essentially a second dwelling unit on your property. Oftentimes it could be like, picture, I don't know, Jesse from Full House. It's like the apartment over the garage, or it can actually be kind of like within your house as well. So it's a way for potentially people to age in place, to have their family close to them, to use one of the properties, as a rental for income. And so in the master plan, we are recommending allowing those in certain districts, but it's important to know that the master plan is just policy. So even if it calls for that, it doesn't necessarily become law. One of the steps after this would be to take a look at the zoning ordinance, which is actually the rules and regulations, and that's where we would get into the nitty-gritty of which lots can have this. Do we have a minimum lot size where you are permitted to do this? What are the setbacks? Thinking about just a lot more of those details. And so, yeah, I hope that.
Say one of the walls.
It can be in addition.
But, so why are you separate?
Well, I think in my experience, it's because people want their own residence. We have a huge problem in this city where there's nowhere for no one's gonna build single family ranches. Nobody's gonna do that. It's just not profitable. So this would alleviate some of that kind of my thought, and I believe that in that situation, they will practice into that feel like separately. So I think there's benefit there. I think there's marketability to that.
If there was, if one of the considerations would be rental then,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then that's only if it falls within that zone.
Correct. Yeah, and we can get into the nitty gritty of that.
And-
And that might be, you have to have enough parking.
Yep.
to accommodate
Or-
on your lot. There
or-
might be- That's where we could shape that to make sure it's not just kind of jammed on a postage stamp and there's.
Mhm. There can also be, a lot of communities will do like an owner occupancy requirement where one of the units needs to be owner occupied, so it couldn't be like two rentals on the same property. So there's really a range of ways that you can customize it to your community. I'd say, probably within the last 10 years, they've become this very popular idea just because of this issue we have with, as Aaron's saying, like these starter homes or accessible places for folks that want to downsize but aren't, ready to head to the retirement community or whatever. It gives an option. So, there's a lot of ways that it can be customized to the specific
Did we go through
needs
this?
of Marshall.
Yeah, did we go through this one time in history where we talked about duplexes? And then that's what that, basically what that was, is it was a separate unit, could rent it.
Currently, zoning, normal residential law, that's any.
Exactly.
And this just allows you to do a little bit of variance to that same idea. And I think that this allows us to increase density in areas where we want to increase density. Like I said, my area in Prospect, it's all multi-units there anyways. And some of those are large lots where an accessory dwelling unit would be perfect there. So I think if we get out of the way of people that want to do that, I think that's a very non-impactful way to change housing in the community without building giant, let's say apartment complexes or something like that.
Use the existing land. If available, if it allows it. Use the existing land that we have, which is behind houses.
I mean, a lot of the lots.
Aren't you increasing density when you do that?
We need to increase that.
Oh,
to some
okay.
degree. There's a
Alright.
demand for it. And this is a very unobtrusive way, unimpactful way to do that.
Got it.
And honestly, a lot of these houses in town have really old, falling down carriage houses that to be replaced with accessory dwelling unit. Especially, for rental purposes, if there's a way to cash flow that, you can make an investment, which makes them pretty nicer. Those things I think look terrible. Some were pretty falling down, self register down. And I think this is a huge, and of course I'm a realtor, so I'm biased about property rights here. So I wasn't sure about the rule, owner occupied lots there, but.
I'm not saying you have to do it one way or another, but it is an option.
Okay.
Density helps with downtown businesses
Mhm.
and businesses in general. I think it also helps with the idea that, say, my mom could move into a dwelling out the back. If I chose to have children, those children could be in town.
Mhm.
And looking at the demographic data and the shift in the youth population over the last 20 years, it's only gone down. So efforts to reinforce each of those points, I think, is just incredibly important for the future viability and health of this community.
How many communities do you work with, Julie?
I don't have a number off the top of my head, but
More than 4 or 5.
yes. Yeah,
Do you see this as somewhat of a trend?
I do. Yeah. The AARP has done a lot of work in this space. So they even have model legislation that you can adapt to your community because they really see it as a way to, again, allow for opportunities to age in place. They kind of see it as in line with, the goals of their organization. So yeah, I would say within the last 10 years, there's really been a lot of movement with communities adding it all over the state and, across the country. They're going even further in some places, like California basically allows them everywhere, I think. But here in Michigan, it's still a community decision, but a lot of communities are making that decision.
I do think there's a bit of vanity to this statement, but the marketability of it too, with younger demographic and wanting to have a space that could have these types of units. And again, the desire to bring more young professionals, more young families into town. So while a small piece, I think it is also worth noting. Hop on YouTube, watch some shows.
That's all I have.
I wasn't here last time, so I just want to share my thanks to the Progressive team. I thought you all did an exceptional job with herding us cats and also making it fun. It was dynamic. And I think that the community felt that as well with the structure of the pop-up events, with collecting feedback. Very happy that you guys were at the table, making this happen, showing us the way, and thank you.
Oh, well, thank you as well. We've said you guys have been a really fun community to work in and just really committed to this project. And yeah, you helped with our engagement events. So Ian was going around forcing people to vote with like this money. We had like a voting exercise where we sort of had like Monopoly money and you could spend it on, the housing type that you wanted. And we were at a fountain, like Fridays at the Fountain, and Ian was like, I'm getting people to vote, and he was giving money to people. So we appreciate the involvement.
That's what we give in Marshall's involvement, right? So I think we're ready, Marcia. And then do you want to, the chair will entertain a motion to move the master plan draft. Do we just call it a draft?
Mhm.
Move the master plan draft on to city council for them to open it to our next phase. And do you want to include public hearing dates on there or no? Separate? Or do you want isn't that something that council would do or no?
So I was thinking that we were going to need to set a public hearing date for after that 63-day window. So that 63-day window would start after city council opens that window. And I think that is June 16th. I think it's our September 19th.
Okay.
The public hearing.
So we need two motions.
So, yeah, so we need a motion to.
Okay, let's do it that way. Then we'll get back to that. All right, entertain that motion. Is there a second? Moved and seconded to move the 2025 master plan draft onto city council. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. No. Now we'll entertain a motion to set 2 dates. 1 date.
I think just 1 date.
Okay. And then you help with that.
Date September 9th. Planning commission. To hold the public hearing.
Sure.
To close the end of the.
Chair will entertain a motion to do that.
Support, Stuart.
Moved and
September 10th, if it's a Wednesday, right?
oh, let's back that up. Thank you, Julie.
You had it correct in an email before, so. And that does give about a month between the end of the public comment period and that public hearing date. So there'll be time for making revisions and things like that. So it's not like turn around right away.
You're sure there's 63 days in between? Just. Well, it's 2 months. Yeah. 30 days, so it's 17 plus. Perfect. Okay, so Aaron, if you would adjust your motion, please. And Ian, will you support that?
Yes, support.
Moved and supported to set the public hearing for the 2025 master plan for Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much.
Safe trip north. Next item on the agenda is 210 Winston Drive, a proposed hotel, and I think you all have your site plan in front of you. Marcia, do you want to just speak to that issue?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just gonna I'm not gonna read everything that I put in my write-up. But I'll just kind of do a high level. So we have a Home2 Suites by Hilton that is looking to be located on the undeveloped site at Unit 5 on 210 Winston Drive. The site's 3.73 acres and is zoned B4 regional commercial. In that zoning, hotel isn't allowed use. The lot coverage is below the 60% allowed at 40.8%. 4 stories is allowed, which is what their height is. Let's see here. The maximum height is under the maximum allowed. Setbacks are met, even with the condominium agreement in that area. Staff has reviewed this honestly multiple times. We've had a little bit of back and forth with the presenters, and we've made a few tweaks in order to kind of clean up a couple of things on the site. We have clear access for the fire department. We have no concerns from water or sewer. Stormwater review was completed with help of an outside consultant. That is, they will continue to do that through getting construction documents from the applicant, but there was no concerns that, should hold up the approval process. Let's see, parking allocation is met. We did have them allocate some space for additional parking if down the road, kind of just like we did at the other hotel that we reviewed fairly recently. We did a similar type of review here and had them allocate a few spaces for their internal meeting room in case that would cause problems with any adjacent parking. Let's see here. We've gone back and forth with some landscaping. I believe that they're doing a good job of screening the adjacent property. So the only thing that is close to that property that might be a concern as far as screening is the villa, which is the assisted living facility that is just north of the site. So we did coordinate some coniferous screening off of this parking facing that property. Let's see. Electrical will require a desktop review once they have complete plans that all the loads and all those kind of things can be reviewed by our electrical department, which is pretty standard at this point. We just don't have those loads and stuff to be able to have that calculation, but their primary concern is just to make sure that they have the appropriate equipment available to serve this facility. There is a MDOT right-of-way permit for stormwater discharge, but there's not a need for one for the right-of-way permit, you know, like we would normally see at an entrance. So this one is only for the stormwater discharge. And we did pose the question because the railroad is fairly close there. We did ask if there needed to be a railroad review. We don't necessarily drive that review. But because there is, they looked into it and they said there's no railroad or review required by the Railroad Commission. They provided their lighting calcs on their photometric plan, you know, extending far enough that we could kind of see where that extends beyond their property. And that goes all the way down to zero, so. Oh, one other note, there is no solar panels on this project. No charging stations, and no generator that is currently included. If any of those were to come into the project, those would obviously have to be kind of re-reviewed before our electrical department would proceed with that. That was kind of a quick summary of my write-up.
Great.
But do you have any questions?
Is there someone representing the petitioner here to see?
There is. There is. Do we have one? Oh, we do have an easel.
Hello, Marcia, or hello, everyone. Thank you, Marcia. My name is Rayhan or Ray from Amara Lodge Group. We are the developers and owners of the future Home 2 Suites Hotel. We feel like it'll be a great opportunity for us to help grow you guys' economy here in the city of Marshall. We're very experienced and we know what we do. We were approached by Hilton to bring this product out to the city of Marshall. A little bit about our company. We own around 50 hotels in the Midwest. We own the most Holiday Inn Expresses in all of North America. We got Developer of the Year by IHG, and now we're working closely with Hilton to help contribute to their overall portfolio. We're very excited. Like Marcia said, it's a 4-story, 106-room hotel, and we're very, very eager to help contribute to you guys' economy. And I have Rich Van Dever here. He is our civil engineer, and he can answer all your guys' technical related questions if you have any.
Yep, yeah, just a quick overview. Marcia took most of my comments for me. Just so you know, this site has been vacant probably for about 25 years plus, probably due to the challenges in the engineering of the site. It's quite steep and we're building a flat hotel like this. So we have a wall, a lot of fill for a flat parking lot. Well, parking lot and building. So that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is the sewer is quite shallow at the end as well. So we will be having our pump station to discharge to the gravity sewer. Water main is at the end and all the other utilities are there. So other than the grade change, we'll make it work once we get the fill in. And we're taking actually the detention pond that's here. We're over digging it, taking some of that dirt for borrow pit as well. So it should be actually a wet detention basin. We'll take as much dirt as we can out of there as long as it satisfies the code for fill. So that's the plan in a nutshell.
Is there any questions for the petitioner, engineer? Can you explain the no curb at the southeast corner down there of the parking lot?
From the last revision, we went from the bumper blocks back to curb. I was originally going to have that running sheet flow through into the grass area and then infiltrate down and swell out. That was basically, I was trying to do a BMP sediment control, but I think the curb in this situation is better for, I guess, the guests.
Still have good storage area down there, but you just got to lift over the curb, that's right.
Yes, no storage, correct. Yeah, so the catch bases went from in the grass to.
It appears that the overflow on the detention pond goes down the hill towards the expressway or towards the exit ramp.
Yes, there's a ditch.
So do you have to have permission to share that? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that,
Okay.
I've actually already requested MDOT's input on this months ago, and they said, okay, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Just once you get your site plan approval, give us your construction documents and fill out this form.
Right.
And it should be good to go. Yes.
Yeah.
If we have a point, the discharge to the ditch, what's here, highway edge, the overflow, the emergency overflow in case three or something clogs up these overflow animals, water then has to overflow down.
You know, do you have any rough idea what degree of rain that is? Like a 2-inch rain in an hour or 3-inch rain in an hour?
For overflow?
Yeah,
Oh, I
for the
think-
overflow to work because it's so high.
Well, I think it's based on, I think, 500 years.
That's what I thought.
Storms.
So chances are there's not gonna be a lot of water going down there.
Correct, yeah, and we have a foot of freeboard, actually, 1 foot of freeboard around the outside.
Are you responsible, once it goes past the property line, are you responsible to build, you know, riprap ways and all those kind of things?
Yeah, that's what I've got, will approve and review.
So they would,
Yes.
they would offer that. Okay, all right. At the north, or at the south west corner of the structure, there's 2 islands. You can do it right on there. There's 2 parking islands right there. And I know you made the adjustment on the engineering plan that I'm looking at, but you didn't make it on the landscape plan. So the landscape plan that you're submitting tonight doesn't have that island adjustment. So would you want us to condition that, or
Yeah, it'll be.
you want us to condition it, or do you want to just assure Marcia that he'll make the change to match your engineering plan?
Either way.
It's up to you.
Yeah, we can, well, I'll go with the landscape architect and I can get it fixed over and sent over probably by this week.
And then just make sure Marcia gets it in her
Yeah.
package.
Yep.
Okay.
One thing for me, just before we apply for the permit, is just confirm the photometrics off the back side of the building. It did seem like they were a little light. I didn't know what all went into that. So if you guys could just look into that, especially along the sidewalk, to ensure adequate light for safety.
Okay.
So, your retaining wall, it's a single wall. It's quite high.
Correct.
It's good. That's good material, huh? It's an engineered material, and I thought by setting back 1 inch that it would take up quite a bit of space. Isn't that nearly 14 feet high?
In a couple locations, yes.
Yeah.
Only steepest, like,
Yeah, exactly.
And they go down to 0 here.
Right.
0 to
Yeah. I'm more concerned about the 14-foot high portion of it. And then that doesn't require any kind of underlayment, any kind of webbing or anything. Or,
Probably will be some tiebacks and things like that.
That's not shown on your-
Final.
okay, it's not showing on your plan, and neither were the details of the wall, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, the final, there's no here, final structural.
I looked it up. That was great information, and I looked it up on their website. And I'm very surprised that they can go 24 feet, so. In Michigan.
Yeah, these walls, that sheer wall, those work great. You see them all the time, like mainly at Costco's and Walmart's where they put these huge pads on the
Yeah.
sides of hills, so.
People will never see the wall, of course.
Don't, yeah, unless you're on the highway.
Exactly, or on the exit ramp coming up. Excellent job in presentation, excellent job in engineering. It's a great presentation, and the landscape plan is excellent as well.
Someone
Anything
else,
else?
not me, I won't take credit for it.
Yeah, engineers sometimes do that. Not necessarily. Any other questions for the petitioner? We don't have a site plan number on my notes. That around there, the people could see that. Those are some great photos and stuff. Did you get a site plan number?
No, there's. Is it part? I'm sorry.
Your office and, oh, that's downstairs.
I'm trying to think of how we can.
I don't know because I've never had a site plan approved without a number. Be glad to do it and have you fill it in later, but
Do
I think that's it, gentlemen. If there's no questions, no other questions.
Yep.
Thank you very much for your involvement in the City of Marshall.
Excited to contribute to you guys' economy, so.
Great, thank you.
I have an idea. Is it at my discretion as to what this number is?
As long as it falls within your system, yeah.
Would you allow me to give it a number right now
And then fill it in later,
and then adjust?
adjust it later, sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call this 25-6. And this would be number 1. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's the first one of this month of the year. And then I will revisit that if that's okay.
You fill it in later.
Thank you.
Make sure it matches the minutes, probably. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the site plan for 210 Winston Drive, the Home 2 Hotel, and the number is, the site plan number is 25-6, number 1.
So move, Stuart.
Is it moved and seconded? Any further discussion?
There are some contingencies on there. Should we have included those? The
M.1?
MDOT permitting and the condominium agreement? Should we redo it with those contingencies?
It probably would be a good idea.
Did you included the condominium
Yes.
minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
And so they're coming in as part of the package. So do we need to,
We should probably amend it to say approve the site plan. And you, with contingencies, you could even say as noted, including the condominium update of the condominium agreement.
what more do you have to do on the condominium agreements?
It's just a requirement that they update it. Update it as a final documentation.
And then you have that on file?
Yeah, and they have to, it has to go to the deeds for the property.
Here's the break.
Association involvement, they're part of the association, so the association is something that doesn't have that, yeah.
So they have as-built information that needs to get updated.
Is the petitioner aware of that?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So I'll revise my motion.
Was it your motion? Yes, please.
Yes, it was. All right, so move for approval contingent on the condominium agreement being revised.
And the MDOT.
Oh, and the MDOT coordination for
Permit.
permitting.
Second.
With that amendment to the motion, are there any other questions? Thanks for catching that. That's why you're here. Hearing no other comments or questions, please vote in favor of the site plan approval by signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, the same. And the motion carries. Again, thank you very much for your involvement. Next item on the agenda is 1114 West Michigan Avenue, Consumers Credit Union Site Plan Amendment Request. And we'll let Marcia start with that, please.
Thank you very much, you guys. So on this item, which if we need a number, I'm gonna call this 25-62, all right, if we end up needing a number for this. So tonight, Consumers Credit Union is coming for an amendment to their previously approved site plan. They received site plan approval in November of 2023. Oh, I'm sorry, in December. Thank you for that. Sure, I can give that. So that site plan approval was 23-09. So in that approved site plan, there was a lot connection with the adjacent property, which is now Sprinkles. Going back to the discussion and the meeting minutes of that meeting, it indicated that the intent was to keep the historically shared access between the two properties. After approval was given, MDOT reviewed the access drive to the Consumers Credit Union site and required consumers to widen the throat of their drive. If they left their drive in the location that was approved, it took up some of the right of way in front of the Sprinkles building. So consumers approached Sprinkles about the use of the right of way in front of their building. And Sprinkles chose not to allow the use of the frontage in front of their property. To accommodate not being able to use that frontage, consumers shifted their access to the west to keep the throat of their drive on their property, which eliminated 2 parking spots in that design process. There's not a problem with the number of parking spots on the site. It still meets our minimum zoning requirements. So consumers also chose to close the connection between their property and the adjacent Sprinkles property. Consumers did not request a site plan change as part of that process, and which is why we're here tonight. To go through that official process to amend the site plan is what they're requesting. So consumers was notified by staff that the plan they were following during construction did not meet the Planning Commission's requirements once that curb was poured, dividing off the 2 properties. And I think I'm gonna leave it at that for you guys to,
Thank you, Marcia.
yeah.
This is someone here from the credit union that would like to speak, please.
Good evening. I'm Nick Lukes from Bosch Architecture. Marcia summed it up a little bit. I want to give a little more background why we did what we did and why we're proposing this. So like she said, we submitted the plan. It was approved in December of 2023 with the drive mostly meeting MDOT's. So MDOT has 2 documents for driveways. There's a geometric design guide and there's a administrative rules for driveways, parades, and banners. There are 2 different documents that have 2 different requirements for driveways. The original driveway was done under the administrative rules for driveways. Met all the requirements with the exception of we did encroach on the neighboring parcel originally in the original plan. I think it was by 5 or 6 feet. So knowing that, we went and submitted the plan to MDOT. In October of 2024, when construction commenced, the contractor reached out to MDOT to get a permit and they said, hey, hold on a second. Your driveway needs to meet this GO 680 document, which requires a 30-foot drive and 40-foot radii so the entire driveway, and it has to be completely within your site. So the entire driveway from spring point to spring point needs to be 110 feet wide. This whole site is 115 feet wide. So the driveway would have to be dead center in the middle of the site in order for that to happen. There are some provisions for reducing some of the radii depending on use. So we actually had, when MDOT sent their comments back, that's when we met with the Sprinkles people on October 25th of 2024 and said, hey, we'd like to encroach a little bit on here. This will benefit, you as well, because you are, we're keeping that cross access open. They said, okay, work up a plan that meets the MDOT requirements, the new MDOT requirements. So when we were there on site, MDOT said, hey, we can go down to either 30 or 35 feet radii. So it's still a really large driveway. So we worked up two plans showing the 35 foot radii and the 30 foot radii and presented that to Sprinkles on November 22nd of 2024. They looked at it, sat on it over the weekend, and then on the 26th of November said, no, we're not going to allow the encroachment. So at that point, we reached out to MDOT and said, hey, what do we do here? You know, what are our options? They said, well, if you get a traffic study for your use only, so just for the credit union use, and prove that your use is a limited use, then you can utilize the existing drive cut that was there for the Pizza Hut, which was a little bit further to the west. So we contracted with Fleece and Vandenbrink. They do traffic studies. They did a traffic study for the site and said, yes, you can utilize the existing drive. The existing drive is a 30-foot drive width with 20-foot radii. So we reworked our driveway with that, did that. As a result of that, we took out the cross access because that driveway was a variance granted by MDOT for our use only, for the use of the credit union traffic. And we didn't believe that we needed to come back to the planning commission because in the zoning ordinance, the Marshall zoning ordinance, there's specific requirements for cross access. And it also says, the planning commission may require provisions of shared access facilities as a condition of site plan approval. When I went back and looked at the minutes of that meeting, it's not a condition of approval. There's 3 conditions listed in there. There's a light by the ATM. There was a ZBA to approve a use variance for the drive-through and parking over the required maximum amount. So in my opinion, it's like, okay, this is not a condition of approval. It was just something that we agreed to do. Didn't need to be there legally. So fast forward to last month, Marcy reached out to me and said, hey, we received a complaint and that's why we're here today. So I do have a couple questions though, so the correspondence that was read previously states that they can get an average of 75 to 100 cars a day that would potentially be using the consumer's driveway if you allow this access. The average use for the credit union is only 60 cars a day at the maximum. So at what point does the ice cream shop become the main user of the driveway and we're a secondary use at that point on our property that we're paying for and maintaining? Who pays for the wear and tear of that driveway that's there now? The other thing is consumers feels this is a user and safety issue as we had to remove 2 spaces from the front of the building where customers of the credit union typically park. Those spaces are the closest spots to this ice cream shop. So we feel if we leave that open, they're going to park there and take up parking for the members of the credit union to use. And then they would be crossing the main driveway, the main ingress egress driveway for consumers to get to the ice cream shop. Who assumes the liability if someone gets hit? You know, if the majority of the traffic being egressing out of that driveway is from the ice cream shop, who assumes liability if some accident happens with someone crossing the road? Is there any assurance that the patrons of Sprinkles will not park at consumers during consumers' business hours? Because if you read the minutes from the original, that was like, hey, we will allow you to utilize the parking after our normal business hours. Is there any assurance that that could happen? The consumer site is sized appropriately to handle the traffic for the credit union use. It appears based on the correspondence that Sprinkles is not. As by closing off this driveway, they have 10 spots on their site. We have 8. So they are generating more traffic and they don't have a valid, you know, it even says in their letter, like, hey, when someone's trying to get in and out, it's not even possible out of their driveway because of the way their parking is configured on their site. The other thing is by redoing this driveway, it now curves. So there's about 50 feet from the edge of the road to where the handicap spot starts. So if we're generating that much more traffic egressing from the ice cream shop, there's going to be stacking there that is going to back up into that parking in front of the credit union. And I guess the main question is, how can a neighboring use with more traffic per day in an unsafe site, per their own correspondence, solely rely on a neighbor's parcel for safe ingress and egress? So that's any questions, I guess.
Did you say Nate? correct?
What's that?
Did you say Nate or Nat?
Nick.
Nick?
Yep,
Neither one. You
you're
said
good.
neither one.
Been called worse, so.
Spell your last name for me.
Loeks.
Are there any questions for Nick? Is anyone else speaking from the credit union?
I have Lindsay McCall from the credit union. If
All
she's-
right, does Lindsay want to speak?
Just a few words.
Yes, please. Hang in there, Nick.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he'll come
I'll
back
stay
up,
right
I'm
here.
sure. So, no, I think Nick did a really good job explaining, just from the
And your name and so forth.
My name is Lindsay McCall. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Consumers Credit Union. I've had the opportunity to meet with our neighbors a few times. One was back in November during the meeting that Nick mentioned. And I just wanted to mention Consumers Credit Union is super excited to serve the city of Marshall. We actually already have 500 members here, have already hired residents of your city to actually work in that office. And we employ, gosh, about 440 Michiganders across the state. So we really approach communities as a partnership to the point where we actually offered Sprinkles, hey, we'll promote you on our social media. We will promote you, with our businesses and members, just in spirit of that partnership. And so I just wanted to make sure that, say a few words from the credit union's perspective, and just to know that we are very excited to serve the community of Marshall. And just in support of Nick's comments here, we are concerned about the safety, about the wear and tear of the lot as well. So we wish we wouldn't have had to go through the MDOT situation, and we could have built just as our plans were, but unfortunately we had to go through the process and make some tweaks along the way. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Nick? Yeah, where to start? Want me to start? I've got just a couple. Nick.
Yep.
The 5-foot encroachment. The 5-foot encroachment occurred in the right of way, or it occurs on the actual deeded property?
It occurs in the right of way.
Okay, so neither party owns the right of way. Is that correct?
Correct, but
Not only does MDOT have control of the right of way, but if MDOT doesn't, and we're pretty aware of that, having Michigan Avenue down through our main street,
well,
that we have very little control over that.
well, this is a whole nother thing that I'll bring up after you guys talk about this. This is going to become an issue with any property that develops along Michigan Avenue, because they're going to enforce these larger driveways. So it does say in their document, it said a driveway including a radii, but not including right turn lanes and tapers, which is weird to me. Like the right turn lane and taper can go on your neighbor's property, but the actual radii can't. Shall be located entirely within the area between the permittee's property lines extended to the center line of the highway. So even though your property is 50 foot from the center of that road is where your property line is, and you don't control or own or have any of that thing, you still have to get approval of if you encroach in front of their property.
Yeah, because you're actually bringing a entrance exit drive up to that point. So yeah, you have to have, they're in control from that point on.
Yeah. And the weird thing to me is, like, if it's a right turn lane or taper, you don't have to get that. So if we had a right turn lane or a taper lane here, we wouldn't have to get the approval just because it's part of the driveway. And then if the right turn lane and taper have a completely different set of design standards, that the radii can be reduced because you're slowing down and getting into the site. So, and if you look, like, I think it's 2 parcels to the east, the bank has a big wide driveway with a right turn lane and taper. So.
And Nick, I'm sorry, but are you the architect or the engineer?
Engineer.
You're the engineer.
Yep.
You're PC?
PE.
PE, sorry.
Yep.
In your discussions, okay, so can I understand that you are the one that presented the original site plan to the city?
Right. Yep.
And you did all the research you could, and you came up with that situation where you were encroaching on that, where that entrance arc was encroaching over, let's say past their extended property line.
Yeah, and typically.
Okay, I'm just, that's all. So when you had to deal with MDOT, are you dealing with the same human being, or are you dealing with a department that would tell you that that's okay, but that then come back to you and say, no, that's not okay?
So let me give you a little bit of background for the MDOT. So their office is directly down the road here.
Yeah, we know the MDOT
Yep.
very well.
Dealt with Brandon. I believe he's relatively new to MDOT. He relied a lot on the engineers who've been here for quite a while. And what they're starting to enforce is these wider driveways or what, which is not common in areas like this because it is smaller lots. You'll see these larger driveways enforced, like say if I take, M43 out to South Haven, and get out in farmland, that's where you would see that because they're 55 miles an hour. You're trying to get, trucks and stuff off the road. Where here, it's usually a lower speed limit, smaller lots. So dealt with them. He met with us on site, the original meeting, and said, okay, if you present these two radii, we'll look at that. And that's when we presented to Sprinkles and they said no. At that meeting, he said, I think one of the comments from Sprinkles was, what we don't want to do this because it impedes our future development on our site. What if we want to put a drive-through in here? And he openly said, Brandon at that meeting says they will never get a second driveway out to Michigan Avenue.
Who said that?
Brandon from MDOT, Brandon Betts.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, that's when we started going down the road of like, hey, what are our options here? So we actually had to we went to the engineers. They said they wouldn't budge on it. We had to get approval from the regional trap director, which her name's Angie Kremer. She's in charge of like a 5-county area. She had to sign off on it to even allow us to do the traffic study to determine if the existing to allow us to do the traffic study to see if we could reuse the existing driveway. That's how far it went in this so.
Okay, what? All right.
Yeah.
One of your comments was that the MDOT, by issuing the permit for this new entryway that you've built, by issuing that, that MDOT will not allow any other business to use it. You mentioned that. Is that, do you have that documented by MDOT?
No, what I'm saying is when we did the traffic study to determine if we could reuse the existing driveway,
Right.
it was only based on credit union traffic.
Yeah.
Because they were reducing the radii and reducing the width of the entryway, so.
But I implied from your statement earlier that that another company wouldn't be permitted. In other words, Sprinkles would not be, even if you opened it back up, Sprinkles wouldn't be allowed to use it because of an MDOT rule.
There's no specific thing that
Okay,
says,
all right.
so there's no specific thing that MDOT said, hey, we open this up, they'll be allowed to use it. However, the whole driveway is predicated on just the credit union usage.
I know that. Okay.
So if you introduce 75 to 100 cars more to that driveway, it becomes a different use.
Were you the one responsible for consulting with your client, who I assume is the credit union?
Yep.
Were you the one responsible for proceeding with work without getting a amendment to the
Yes.
to the site plan? You were? Okay. And I can only ask you why you would do that without getting permission first.
I kind of stated it in the thing originally is we took away the access because we didn't feel it was a requirement of approval. So there's a specific section in your ordinance that says it needs to be a condition of approval. It was not a condition of approval. So
Yeah, but right up until all this happened, I can read it for you if you wish. But Nick Locke's engineer for consumers from Bosch indicated that the driveway connection with the ice cream business to the east will be maintained. And that's your statement.
No, I know.
Okay.
But read the
I
next.
also said McDonald indicated that they were willing to let customers of the ice cream business and McDonald is
She's
general manager.
She's our site construction manager, yes.
I will add on to that. At no point did we believe that was their main point of egress, though. Typically in a cross access, it's like, hey, you're gonna park over here.
These are your comments to us.
I understand that, but what I'm saying now is at whatever gets written in the minutes is what gets written. But what I'm saying is after the fact,
Let me say that not only is it written in the minutes, but that's what we vote on.
okay, I understand that too, but going back to your ordinance.
Yeah.
It says shared access needs to be a condition of approval, and it was not a condition of approval. And it also says you need to record easements and access agreements, and that was not a condition of approval either.
You're correct. Okay. Anything else for Nick?
During your traffic study, when's the peak hours for your,
I did print it off, but typically it's like 5 o'clock at night for like, they'll do a AM and a PM. So AM is usually when they open, about 9 and 5 when they close. So it's the peak.
We get it.
But that's in the traffic study, the peak, the way that ITE does it, it's usually morning and like late afternoon.
did they give you a number for the afternoon rush?
It was 27 cars. Which there's no way there will ever be 27 cars exiting at 1 hour out of that credit union.
And you close at 5 and the employees leave at what, 6?
5:30.
Yeah, probably about 5:30. We have Teller Plus terminals with kind of like an ATM in the drive-through. Those are open till 7 with Teller services, so a member could talk with a live human being.
Is your ATM open 24 hours?
It is.
Okay,
Can I ask a question of the ice cream dream people?
you may.
When are your peak hours for traffic? Between 4 and 7 and
A lot of after dinner.
I'm aware of the after dinner, yeah. So do you have a number of cars at those times?
That time?
No, you don't have a study.
No.
Okay, all right.
Give you the exact
Okay,
number.
that's where I was going with this. Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else for Nick? Yep, see, thanks.
Thank you.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the amendment being requested for 1114 West Michigan Avenue, Consumers Credit Union site plan. This is to approve the amendment, and this is a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Remember, it's my responsibility to remind you that even though it's a motion to approve, you can still vote either way when we come to vote. So we have to present motions in a positive situation.
So moved.
Moved in, is there a second?
Second, Fitz.
Moved in second to approve the amended site plan, and now we are open for discussion amongst us. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. Thank you.
I mean, to me,
Comments?
it appears retaliatory
Mhm.
in nature. And even though it wasn't a condition, the original site plan did show that being maintained. So
Mhm.
that's problematic for me.
Yeah, I agree. The decision to close the connection, it seems retaliatory.
Okay.
And petty. And going back on agreement, corporate America against the small business owner.
And I-
Marshall's kind of built on being a good neighbor. Am I, what I say, is that correct? So it's kind of how we are here.
I was actually just gonna say that exact thing, is that does not seem very neighborly. And also renders their parcel almost useless. Because the only other remedy is to connect with the bank's drive there, really.
If it would help you in your final decision, I did And I'm not a PE. But I did a design for their parking lot that works pretty well without the connection. Just not to sway you one way or the other, but decisions that we make are hopefully the questions that I asked were somewhat helpful, but obviously this could have been handled either two ways, one with a legal agreement before it approached us. Two, we could have required the legal agreement before we made the decision to approve a site plan with a connection going across, having no way of knowing what would come up in the future with that. There are many examples in the city of Marshall with crossovers between different properties, and you could probably name them, but
Do those all include shared access agreements?
well, no, absolutely not, unless they were on file. So my point is that this particular matter that we're dealing with tonight could have been handled a lot easier with an agreement. Because once it gets to the point of who did what to who, usually an attorney is involved, and usually if that came to us and said that this is an agreed upon opening, because looking through the ordinance as Nick did, we don't really deal with crossovers, and have control over them. So I was chairing that meeting. When that comes before us with a crossover, we're thinking that, well, it's always been a crossover. So it was easy to ignore the fact that that we really didn't have, that we really should have closed it off that night. I will offer this also for Sprinkles, is that the site itself, as you indicated in your letter to us that you read, the site is extremely inadequate. It's inadequate for many reasons. And it has never gone through a situation where that site had to be brought up to existing ordinance conditions. If it was, I don't know that there'd be any room for anything else there. What I drew was based on zero lot lining, which means that, you don't worry about what's next to you. You can go over to your lots. I think short of a garbage truck, do the garbage trucks back in, or do they drive in forward?
They back out.
They back out, drive in forward. But they have lights and they have all those signals and, those kind of things, So I know there's bigger things than a Yukon, but I've been down there 2 or 3 times with Yukon, and I'm able to make that maneuver of backing up as long as you don't have people double parking.
It's maneuverable.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's maneuverable, but it's not safe by having 3 parking spaces on the side that you have. And if you take those 3 out, Marcia and I looked at it, and you still have your 6 that you're required to have, so.
In our defense, all that striping was put down when there was access to.
Understand.
So it's just his state.
Understand. So, yeah, this wouldn't have had to be a factor if we would have had a legal agreement with it going across. I will have to say that once, I think it's still America, and once you buy a piece of property, you can do with it whatever you wish. If you buy the ice cream shop with an opening back there and somebody builds a credit union or something else by having its building within the required setback, which is 10 feet, I think, you wouldn't be able to use that driveway if they would put the building there. So the control over someone else's lot is what this situation comes down to. So what I am very disturbed about, and I feel like we were intentionally ignored when it came to getting an approval to the site plan. In other words, let's pour the concrete and then ask, that it be approved. And that is not the way the city works. It's not the way the department works. However, in this case, again, as I said, it's your property, so. And you choose to come and ask for an amendment, and that is your right to come and ask for an amendment, so. That's all I got to say.
Well said.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Yes, I'm sorry, Marcia?
Thank you. Just as point of order, so this vote, because it is amendment to a site plan. Please help me here. It's 6, right?
5.
We need, okay, so we need, for this to pass, it is a 5 affirmative votes that is required to pass this.
Mhm.
We have 6 members tonight.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, we were talking earlier about the master plan moving on, took 6 as well, so.
A quick question.
Uh,
I have a question.
Okay,
The
at
amendment,
at the podium, please.
So the amendment also includes the new driveway location because we had to relocate the driveway. So how is that? So if you don't, I guess, how does this work? If you don't vote for this, do we have to rip out the driveway?
Voting for it. We're voting.
Well, I understand that, but if you deny it, if you deny it, what happens to the driveway?
Is that a good question? It's a very good question.
New site plan.
Very good question.
So could we possibly, because it is, I know that it was not written in the narrative that was done, right, or the notes, but typically the MDOT approval is not completed when site plan approval is procured, right? It was not written in the meeting minutes that that was included. However, that might have been assumed. I'm sorry, I don't like saying that. But for this purpose, could we maybe make it 2 votes and say that the entrance that is required by MDOT be considered as a separate item?
That's up to the petitioner, not up to us. What the petitioner would be able to do is, if the amendment doesn't pass, is to request an amendment for the entrance drive.
So you wouldn't consider that now? He would have to do a separate amendment?
No, because the petitioner is brought in, the amendment the petitioner brought in is for both.
That's what we were
now,
asked to provide.
The petitioner, and I'm with you there, Nick. Here's the thing. The MDOT is in control. We clearly figured that out.
Yep.
Okay, with as much consternation as possible, they're in control. So we're not, I talked to Marcia a little bit. We really don't have the right to amend anything related to them.
Okay.
What we're amending is your inside driveway as it comes down and approaches there. That's the amendment. It's a very small part of your drive.
Okay.
All right.
So
that piece right there.
So is the driveway still allowed to remain where it's at because MDOT's approved it in that location?
Well, what I'm saying is that would be how I would handle it if I were you.
I'm
Coming back and asking for an amendment for just that piece.
Why can't that be handled tonight? I'm confused here.
Not so sure it couldn't, but I mean, yes, you got all this in writing, so, and that's what they go by.
I mean, I've been to probably 500 planning commissions and you can definitely separate your motion out to
A
say.
condition, yeah, I mean, you can do conditions, yeah. You could vote to approve the amendment with a condition that it does not include the drive-through. And that there are a series of things that need to happen with the drive-through.
But there's already a motion on the floor, so.
And motions.
Just want to make sure that, I don't want to go through this and say,
You're not
hey,
gonna do this without the petition, because this is your petition.
I understand that, but the
Okay, so you
petition
either-
also included the driveway in that location.
Well,
So
I'm
you
just
could
saying.
say, hey, I approve the driveway, but don't approve the, you know.
And I'm saying to you that you either go with the original petition.
It's,
The original petition is for both the driveway and the connection, correct?
yep,
That's the amendment.
yep.
All right. So either go with that, which is in front of us, or we approve the driveway and with the condition that the cross through, wherever want to cross over, is not included.
So the motion on the floor right now is to approve it.
The whole thing as one, So
What I'm requesting right now is add conditions to that. If you choose to not, if you're gonna choose to not require that cross access to be put in, to allow that the driveway to be kept in place where it's at.
I get you, you're clear. We'll reword the motion.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, all right, rescind your motion, whomever.
Yes, you did.
I would like to amend my motion to approve the driveway, but not approve the crossover.
Okay. And is there, before there's support to that?
So approve the amendment with the contingency that be the condition.
Motions? That's why I said rescind your motion.
yeah,
Just, Aaron, just rescind your motion and then.
Love to rescind my motion.
He's rescinded. Rescind your second. Tim. You seconded. Rescind it.
Rescind it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Everybody remembers that kind of procedure, right, in high school? All right, before we entertain another motion, I want Marcia to add those things that you were going to add, if in fact the crossover is maintained. Or is allowed, if they're directed to rebuild the crossover. You had a few things you were gonna add to that.
okay. So what I'd like to throw out there for consideration, if we are asking them to maintain the crossover,
Now they have to rebuild it.
oh, I'm sorry.
The motion would be
Yes,
to rebuild.
rebuild the crossover. I recommend that a shared access agreement be required between these two properties to ensure long-term compliance with any shared parking and cross-connection access. And those, I'm not sure of what parameters we, would put on that, but I think that it would be beneficial to all parties involved.
Parameters meaning a date and time for the completion of the work.
And yes, and I'm not sure if, we need to set any expectation on what is included in that.
As long as it looks like it did before.
Yeah.
They're returning it to that state. And if it was gravel, it was gravel. If it was asphalt, it's asphalt. Most of the disturbances on the credit union side anyway. There's no disturbance on the sprinkle side. Okay, so the chair will now entertain another motion.
Point of just question for clarification.
No, go ahead.
This shared access agreement. That, like, who is putting that together? When
Right.
is that completed? I mean,
Right.
This is something I would love to not have loose ends about.
I
Leave
agree.
this room with very concrete plans, so this doesn't linger in any other way.
I agree. And that's why my additional comments about, I'm not sure what direction we are allowed to require, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of parameters that I'm certain that both parties would like to include in that shared access agreement, as it relates to maintenance, as it relates to, timing of access, as it relates to, I'm sorry? Liability. And, just making sure that it's consistently accessible, right? It's kind of a main,
There's a lot of things that can be included in shared agreement, such as maintenance. Such as, how wide it is. And signage, those kind of things. Stop before you proceed kind of things, rather than just an old gravel driveway that's how you exit the ice cream shop. So there's a lot of those kind of things. If we stay generalized rather than be too specific, it would make a great deal of sense if the two parties work that out. However, since the one party is going over on the other party's property, I would assume it would be one party's attorney rather than the other, because you're allowing that to happen. So I'm not an attorney. Where's our attorney? She's supposed to be here tonight. I know why she was. All right. Did you get that answer? Yeah, go ahead.
So my biggest thing is, are they with the changes they made, they're not infringing on the Sprinkle property, correct?
No.
It's just the aesthetics that they didn't say beforehand they were gonna do this
Well, they have to open the curb.
to afford it.
It was just, they have to open the curb that was poured
To
and
get
and move the landscaping.
Okay.
And then they need to go over from their driveway over to be gravel as far as,
if
Ready
that
to
is what you guys vote for.
that's if there's a motion
If-
to vote for it.
If there is
Which
a
we
motion,
have right now. And the chair would rather have a motion to be talking to rather than just
So
hammering on.
I'd like to simple this down, Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
and I make a motion that we vote on the original, enforcing the original site plan. That they go to the agreement that we dealt with back in, what was it, October of 24? Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
we vote on that, whether they comply with that or not.
Well, the only problem is with that is that it's a different site plan because it has a different entrance. So the one that we're voting on is the one in front of us tonight, which has a different entrance
Okay,
for the credit union.
well, help me word it then.
All right. Should anybody want to jump in besides me? Ian, you're so good at words.
I'm gonna give it a shot. Make a motion to approve the proposed site plan
Amendment.
with an amendment
No, you're approving the amendment to the original site plan.
to the original site plan to reinstate the connecting drive
Mhm.
and to ensure a shared access agreement is in place between the two parties. I'm getting some looks now.
I don't think that's gonna work. If I may,
Yes, you may. You're in charge.
I'm so sorry. So if your intent is to reinstate the shared access, right? The amendment, the approval of the amendment is to eliminate the shared access drive. So what's difficult is what we want to do is we want to approve the amendment, the portion of the amendment at the drive entrance, but modify our approval to require the shared access drive to be
Reinstated.
reinstated.
Period.
What she said.
If that is the intent of the group.
I would like to meet MDOT requirements and allow shared access. So with that,
That's what their amendment shows, compliance with MDOT. And then the contingency in that is that we are requiring the access to be reinstated.
correct.
I think you have to say approve.
So you made a motion?
Just a second.
For the
Okay, we have to,
121.
yes, we have to approve the amended, we have to approve the amendment with the condition that the shared access drive is
Reinstated.
reinstated.
And and a,
That's how you can do it.
Okay, tell me.
Because they're bringing to the table that they have to, that they're changing their site plan without the access. So you're
I know,
voting-
but there's two things that have really changed on the site plan. It is the entrance drive
Right.
and then is the shared access. And so we are saying that the drive, which is a part of the
Right.
revised plan, right, needs to be part of the amendment. So we are accepting the amended, but we are, what is the, oh my gosh, I need a word.
Something about with the condition that.
The condition we're providing a condition to that approval for the access drive to be reinstated. I think that's correct,
Period.
right? I think that is
what about
correct.
the legal agreement?
I don't know, I don't think we can dictate
We
if
can't.
they
All
make
right.
a legal agreement.
I don't think we want to touch that.
Yeah.
I think we
I
go
think
back.
that's their responsibility to work together
I-
and figure it out and how it works.
Aaron said it.
I think that we would.
Go back to the agreement that was originally proposed.
They should do that. I don't think that's our role.
Excellent. Excellent. That's basically what I said before, is that they get together after that. Well, what the credit union comes out with in their amendment, if you, what?
Do we have a?
No.
We have to second that.
So is my motion clear or is? Okay, so motion is to approve the amendment with the condition that the side access drive is reinstated.
Period.
Sounds really good.
So as, in the original position, is that what?
I think you should ask for two. It should be broken down to two in the first place. Front entrance and the actual pass through.
But we're dealing with their amendment. This is, we have to deal with that amendment.
So we put it through and say no, or vote on that and then change it from there.
That's exactly right.
That would be.
But now we had a motion to approve, and by saying no to that, then you can have another amendment. Or another motion, I'm sorry. So I can call a question on the first, do you have that written down, the first? Restate that, please.
You want me to restate it?
Please. Yeah.
So the first one,
Yeah, the one we're gonna be voting on right now.
approve the amendment to, all right, I thought I had it done. Approve the amendment to
the site plan.
to the site plan with the condition with the side access drive. being-
No.
No, is that not what you
No,
want?
because what we just said is that we're going to deal with the motion to approve. That was the original motion, was to approve the amendment.
You're going back to the first one.
First one. If you don't want that, you vote against it, and then you have the opportunity to bring up another motion. And that's what I call the question on. Roll call vote, please.
I need a first and a second, because the first, so we
Been-
rescinded it.
Would have been these two.
So I need,
Was
me.
Aaron and.
Move and forward.
So then, yeah.
Tim would
we just
support
have to
that.
decide this one.
okay,
You good?
got it,
Roll call vote, please.
right.
State the amendment again, the resolution or whatever you want.
It's the motion to approve the amended site plan. That's what we're going off.
That's correct.
Just the plan
The current motion is just to approve it as it's presented.
as presented.
I'm a nay.
Fitzgerald,
No.
Hodo,
No.
Stewart,
No.
Underhill,
No.
And Banfield.
No.
Okay, so the motion did not pass.
Thank you. Chair will entertain, any other motions?
To submit a motion to approve the provided site plan with an amendment to it.
Condition.
A condition, that being that the access drive is restored.
Bright will second.
But wouldn't the original motion?
It's included in their amendment. The entrance drive?
Okay.
Is part of the original amendment.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
So it was passed out.
So right now I'm looking at their new
Yes.
site plan
yes,
that has the modifications made per MDOT's requirements
yes.
and does not reflect the side access drive.
That's correct.
I would like to approve the MDOT modifications. And I would like a condition to be made that the side access drive be reinstated.
That's what you did.
Original
Yep.
approved.
That's your
The
motion.
original, yes. and I-
That's your motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
A second. Bright.
Moved and seconded. Are there any further discussions? Additions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
No.
Banfield,
Yes.
Bright,
Yes.
and Fitzgerald.
Yes.
So it passes. There's 5-1.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Next item on the agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to comment on non-agenda items? Barry?
Barry Wayne Adams again, 6.2 West Green Street. All I can say about this last round of legislation is, wow. So much effort for what would seem to be a trivial issue that could be easily.
Remember, non-agenda items, Barry. Please,
Well, it can be anything.
except agenda items.
I don't think that's true.
That's what I said, and I can ask you to
Well-
leave the podium if you want, but
Let me recite to you Article 1, Section 5 of the Michigan Constitution, which says no law shall be enacted to restrain or abridge the liberty of speech or of the press. So you don't have an authority to make those kind of
you can
restrictions.
read that for us and let us know.
What's
But
that?
you're not gonna speak, you're not gonna speak tonight, you're not gonna speak any longer on an agenda item. Or I'm gonna ask you to
Well,
leave. I'm gonna ask you to leave if you're gonna do
Announcement
that.
is ultra virus, but
I said I'm gonna ask you to leave if you're gonna do that.
Well, then you'll be sued.
Well,
So we'll go to different issues.
thank you very much.
This kind of dictatorial stuff should not be tolerated, and it won't be. Get ready for federal court. I don't like this kind of stuff. Okay, things up in Lansing, militating against the completion of the mega site stuff. Legislator has already passed bills restricting influence, foreign influence on public bodies and restricting the pass-through money laundering NGOs like SOAR and MEDEC from entering into any agreements with certain foreign entities such as China, Cuba, North Korea. These will all militate against the fulfillment of the Blue Oval factory, plus the recent, or the, it's not been passed yet, they're expecting to pass it on July 4th. The one big beautiful bill that is being proposed by Trump, which will eviscerate the electrical vehicle industry. It will be a coup de grace. There will be no available federal resources for chargers or state development of battery factories or data storage, battery storage facilities. Now, it's not a bad thing that the mega site goes down. You should check out what has just happened out in Moss Landing, California. There's a battery factory out there, burned for 2 weeks, totally destroyed the agricultural productivity of a valley that produces 70% of the nation's vegetables. A ship just off Anchorage, Alaska, started up in a runaway lithium battery fire, completely destroying 3,000 cars and melting the ship. These lithium battery fires they burn at 4,900 degrees. That's twice the temperature of an acetylene torch. I mean, nothing withstands it. I encourage you to watch Channel 8 News tonight, or Channel 11, or Channel 41 News tonight at 11. They will have a story on lithium battery fires. There are fire departments like in Grand Rapids are discovering that these batteries are actually causing quite a lot of problems, and there's no way to put them out once they start going. So there's nothing wrong with admitting you made a mistake. I mean, you were gaslit by Ford, you were gaslit by the state as to what the potential benefits of this mega project were going to bring, and it's all starting to collapse, and it should. But yeah, attempting to restrict First Amendment rights is intolerable and will be actionable.
Mary? Anyone else? Seeing none, reports from board? Marcia?
I have nothing further.
No.
See you all at the fountain Friday night. First fries at the fountain. Summertime.
Nothing for me.
Welcome to
Thank you.
doing, a party and thank you very much. Hearing no other, is there any other business to be brought for the planning commission? Hearing, seeing none. Thank you. Thank you.